are listening to the Moms in Business podcast, where we get real about all the things on balancing motherhood and still having a thriving business. It is my goal that you hear from real moms, you hear real stories on mindset, time management strategies, and even the moments of crying in the shower, because we have all been there. I'm your host, Misty Shaheen, life and business coach for moms who want the freedom to live life on their own terms without sacrificing their health or family time. Welcome to another episode of the Moms in Business podcast. Today, I'm so excited to introduce you our guest, Jillian. Jillian, how do you say your last name?
Banky.
Banky. Okay, welcome. I'm so excited to have you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. So Jillian is a life and business coach for moms. She's the founder of Mom Camp. She's a busy mama too, and a host of the podcast Mom Camp Around the Campfire. So Jillian is the creator of the Fill Your Bucket method, which teaches moms how to create a solid health foundation, setting priorities and boundaries. She believes that we all need to fill our own buckets first before we pour into others.
Yeah, that is my wheelhouse.
Awesome. So first of all, before we get started, I love to ask, what is your zodiac sign?
Scorpio.
Ooh.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Dangerous.
So you have a birthday coming up. So
I do. Yep.
Awesome. So have you always felt very intuitive, emotional?
Yes, to both of those.
Yes.
Absolutely.
People, you can feel their energy.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know if you'd say I'm an empath, but I connect with all different types of people. I find that my energy adapts to them. Even my speech patterns can sometimes adapt to people. So I have to be careful when it comes to accents because I can find myself taking them on unintentionally.
Yeah, that's so interesting. So I would love to know, have you always done coaching? How did you find yourself in the coaching world?
I have not always done coaching, actually, but I have always been asked for coaching, if that makes sense. So it was never an official thing, but I was always the person that was, a friend would call and say, hey, I want to brainstorm marketing my business and how am I going to launch this thing? Or, hey, I'm really struggling in this area of life. What am I going to do? And then one of my passions is connecting people to solutions. And that's taken me a while to actually figure out that sort of where my zone of genius is, because I've always wanted to say, oh my gosh, have you tried this? Because this is really amazing. Or I just discovered this. This might really help you. Because that's what I love is I don't have to necessarily provide the solution, create it myself, but if I can connect them to something. So I've always been that person. I remember having the phone up to my ear, wandering around my kitchen, just brainstorming with friends I've done that for years.
Wow. That's so interesting. And then you found yourself, coaching people. So what is it that you do in your business now?
So Mom Camp is a platform and there are courses. There is obviously the coaching piece, but there are courses on there and resources and free tools for moms to help reduce the overwhelm, reduce the stress, avoid burnout, hopefully, and really improve their health, increase their energy, and do everything they can to live a truly awesome life.
Wow. Awesome. So how did you get started with Mom Camp?
Well, so in my day job, I am an event planner and community relations manager. And one of the things that we do as part of my job is we run an event every July 1st for several 100,000 people. It's called Canada Day up here in Canada, and it's like Independence Day, but it's a massive event in Vancouver. And it's quite stressful to be the one responsible for that event ultimately. And so it was about 3 weeks before Canada Day a couple of years ago, and everything was just coming down the pipe at me. Changes were happening, big decisions, and it was a lot of pressure. And then it was also 3 weeks before school was ending, and our kids were starting to sort of climb the walls and get a little bit stressful at home. And I was driving to work one day. We had just had a really big blow up with our son, and I was heading into a stressful day full of meetings. And I just said, I just want to go into the woods where I can read personal development books and do workouts and sit by a campfire and be in nature and just have that time for me, where I can sort of reconnect to who I am as a human, not just as a mom or as a manager, right? And I said, I want to go to camp. And then within seconds, I went, mom camp. And that's sort of where it all came from. And then a couple months later, because I immediately started planning a mom camp and what that would look like. But a couple months later, I was at a personal development conference myself. And one of the speakers was on stage, and I was writing a ton of notes. And all of a sudden, I describe it like sort of like this beam of light shot through my head. And I very clearly heard mom camp isn't about creating a place for moms to run away from their lives. It's about helping them create lives they don't want to run away from. And so that's sort of where the platform came from, because I wanted to connect them to solutions, the thing that I'm super passionate about, right? And camp is absolutely a thing. And we had the first camp November last year, and it was phenomenal. Unfortunately, due to the pandemic, we've had to cancel the next two. But that is definitely a piece of it. But I don't want people to have to wait 6 months to a year to go to a retreat. I want them to be able to find those solutions now.
Wow. I love that idea of mom camp. I've been craving a little bit of that myself. I have 3 kids, and it's so important to just get away and take off all of the mom hat and the wife hat and the business owner hat and the employee hat and all these different hats that we wear, and really sink into who we are outside of all of those roles.
Yep, absolutely. It's so important. And also just to connect with other humans on that level, not just, I'm so-and-so's mom, right? Like it's who you are as a human and how you connect to yourself and others, for sure. The first camp we had was so phenomenal. It was just magic. It really was.
Wow. I love that you talk about like the beam of light where you got that download.
Yeah. I mean, I get messages and I hear repeated messages. Like if I'm listening to a podcast or an audiobook or I read something, I'm like, okay, I get it. Like I've heard this message 3 times. But that was the most significant time I've ever had a phrase actually come straight into my head. It was crazy.
Yeah. And so you instantly knew, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And that's my pen took off and I just started writing all kinds of notes. I designed the website on the paper. Like I absolutely knew it was crystal clear.
Wow. That is so awesome. So how long have you had your podcast?
Since November 2019.
Okay.
I launched it right after camp, which was, a bit crazy, but I am a person who likes to take on far too much. And that's why I know all about burnout. But it's also why I know all about getting over it or avoiding it, I should say. But I launched it November 6th of 2019.
Okay. So awesome. Can you just tell us a little bit about what are some of the struggles that you really struggled with when you first were starting out, and how did you get through that?
For sure. You mean specifically with the business?
Yeah.
So for me, it's one of my passions is collaboration and working with others. So I love bouncing ideas off people. I love, just coming together and coming up with what could be the best thing, running things by people. And I felt quite lonely. And so I felt very isolated as I guess you could say solopreneur, doing it all on my own. I wasn't sure what I was creating was going to land. You can't really see the forest for the trees, the expression, right? Like you get so focused on, you're in the weeds of the project. You're building the website. You're writing what you think is good text. But at some point you've looked at it so many times, you can't tell if what you're writing actually makes sense anymore. And if it's really going to resonate with your audience. And so I really needed to take steps to reach out to people and intentionally connect with others and ask them for feedback and, then find that collaboration opportunity outside of myself because I was missing it. I have it at work with my team, but I didn't have it for my own business.
Yeah. And so what were some of the support pieces that you've had to put in place?
Well, I did actually get a business coach. I had a business coach for 6 months and we're just taking a bit of a hiatus right now. But I had a business coach. I reached out to other business owners, people just a few years ahead of me in business or even a year ahead of me in business and at the same level as well, just to sort of surround myself with people that got what I was doing, not just from the mom perspective. I also reached out to moms to find out if what in my audience to see what was landing, but also from the business perspective, people that understood the digital platforms and the course creation and all of those pieces, right?
Yeah, it's so important to surround yourself with people who have gone before you, but also who are kind of in the trenches.
Yeah,
and,
absolutely.
You know, sometimes they're going through the same thing, or sometimes they're maybe a couple months ahead of you, or really talk you through that, right?
Yeah, exactly. It was so helpful. Still, I do get in those modes where I feel alone. And I mean, my husband's amazing, but he's not a mom and he's also not in this digital course creation space. And so he helps on the tech side for sure, but he doesn't always know what I need as far as brainstorming and support and that type of thing. And so I still now find myself, if I start to slip into those lonely moments, I immediately reach out because otherwise I will go to a deep, dark place and I will lose all momentum.
Yeah, I mean, it happens. It happens to all of us. You know, sometimes you have to go deep to be master in your craft, but then you also have to be willing to come up for air and get that feedback from either your audience or other people in your circle. And it's just so important to have those relationships.
So true.
Yeah. So can you talk to us a little bit about burnout and you know, how does one know if she's going through burnout?
That's a great question. For me, the warning sign is when I'm, for an extended period of time, not showing up the way I want to show up. And that usually is more at home than at work because, historically, I'm getting better, but historically, I have given everything I had to work and to the business that I was building. And then I've come home empty. And so I have very little patience. I go to bed and just numb out on my iPad because I can't even fathom, putting out any more energy. I get, resentful. And so I'm not showing up as the mom or the wife that I want to be. I don't go out and see friends as much. I start to sort of cocoon because work has taken everything I have. And so when I start to recognize that I'm not showing up the way I want to show up, and that happens, that happens to everybody once in a while for sure. But when it becomes a consistent thing over an extended period of time, I know that I need to take steps to change something for sure.
Yeah. So what are some things that, a woman or a mom who is in business, what are some of those steps that she can take to ensure avoiding burnout, preventing burnout, or recovering from it?
Absolutely. Well, actually, that last word that you said, the number one thing I would say is take recovery time. So if you have a business and it involves, let's say, a high energy launch period, then I would say you schedule in time for recovery where you have very little to do. It might just be menial administrative tasks for a week or so, and you give yourself that time, schedule a massage, do whatever you need to do to take care of yourself and fully recover. In order to mitigate or avoid burnout in the first place, one of the main things I do is I prioritize sleep. Because if I'm fully rested and I'm prioritizing sleep, and there are ways to at least prioritize a healthy bedtime to promote a good sleep potential. Because I know as moms, sometimes we can't always control the quality of our sleep because a little person comes in. But if you can do things to set yourself up for a great sleep, then you will be more resilient. You will have more energy. You will just feel better, and you will not burn out as quickly if you're in a season of really sort of high intensity work.
Yeah, I love that. And I think as, when you're building a business, a lot of times you are the face of the business and you have this, and I know I've dealt with this where I felt like I had to be on all the time.
It's
And
exhausting.
it was a hard time to like take a step back, and almost a feeling of missing out, a feeling of what's going to happen to my business. Can I even take a break? Can I afford a break? And so I think it's important for all of us to realize that business does go on, and we can take a day, a couple days, even a week off of our business. And it's essential for us to take care of ourselves in order to run a business.
Absolutely. And there are a lot of things you can do. Like, let's say you are in a launch phase or like that heavy season that and you do schedule in recovery time. You can be really intentional and thoughtful about it and actually pre-schedule any of your social media posts. You can find somebody to watch your groups. If you have groups on Facebook that need admin support, you can find somebody to sort of watch them for that week and just make sure they're only flagging things you really need to be aware of. You can be really intentional about how to set yourself up for that recovery time as part of that heavy season, right?
Yeah. So what are some boundaries that you have in place to avoid going too far into the deep end?
Yeah, absolutely. I don't say yes to everything. I used to be a chronic people pleaser. I used to say yes to everything. And it was partially FOMO. It was partially not wanting to miss out. It was also a lot of the expectations around motherhood and what a quote unquote good mom, quote unquote, should do. Right. And so being able to release some of those and know what makes me feel like I am showing up as a good mom and what's important to me and to my kids and to our family, as opposed to what people on Instagram say I should be doing. Now, my husband volunteers for a lot at the school. He's incredible and he lives a life of service. That's actually given me the ability to say, I'm not going to volunteer for anything at school, because I feel like our family has already contributed a lot. So I don't volunteer at our kids' school. I don't take on those extra pieces. I had to actually say no to a couple of requests to be on boards for charitable organizations. Even though the cause is amazing, I became very clear on my capacity and where I was willing to spend my energy. And I think the causes are amazing, like I said, but that's not how I'm best suited to contribute, because I won't be showing up the best way for everybody.
Yeah, I think it's so important to remember we do have a capacity, like you said.
Yeah.
And, one thing that I've learned, and I love to just keep this in the back of my mind, like everything you say yes to, you're saying no to something else.
100%. Exactly. You mentioned in the introduction that I have the fill your bucket method, and I very much believe that you cannot pour from an empty bucket. And so if you think of the visual of like a metal pail and it runs dry and it goes rusty, like it's just, you have to be keeping your bucket full so that you can actually pour into those around you. And I just was very clear on the fact that for every volunteer opportunity I said yes to, for every kids activity that I signed them up for, because that's another thing, is I maintain boundaries around their time as well, especially anything that impacts my time. And so I knew that the bucket was getting emptier and emptier and emptier. And emptier the bucket got, the less capacity and time I had to even do things that would fill it back up again.
Yeah. Wow. We have to be intentional with our time and, really asking yourself, what is your intention? And having those priorities, like you said, what is the priority for your family? And, sometimes those volunteer things that they're kind of nice to do, but they're a priority right now.
Well, and that's it right now. That's not to say you can't do it one day, but for right now, one of the things that I take people through and talk about quite often is the prioritization. So I went through a huge list of things that could be priorities for anybody. It could be recognition. It could be financial security. It could be fitness and health. It could be family time. It could be, there's like 40 things on the list. And I get them to pick at least their top 3, if not their top 10. And so for me, mine is family, health, and fun is one of my top core values. And so if something's not fun anymore, I'm not going to spend a ton of time doing it because I just won't like it. I'm with
you on that.
Yeah. So those were sort of my main 3. And it was like, okay, so let's look at a weekly schedule and how I spent my week last week. How much time in my week was spent in furtherance or support of one or any of those things? And quite often when people do that exercise, and it happened for me, very little of the time we're spending when we're nearing burnout is spent in support of any of our core values, like those top priorities, our personal priorities. And so that's really where I start to say, okay, something needs to go. And I'm going to need to make some tough choices. And I'm going to need to either delegate or delete or, just delay. That's the other thing, is you can delay things until another time. So yeah, those were some of the ways that I really safeguarded those priorities.
Wow, I love that. And like really looking at your calendar and, doing a reflection of where do I spend my time.
Yeah, it's a wake up call and it doesn't always feel good, but it really shows you. I mean, I think actually one of the gifts, if you can call it a gift, that the pandemic has brought is it's put a lot of stuff into really clear perspective, right? It's shown people what truly matters. And, when we all went into lockdown, basically at the very beginning, and there weren't a lot of options to do anything else, you just kind of got really clear on what matters. And then you got to choose what you added back, right?
I love that. I think 2020 has been a great year for just reassessing what it is that we want. And, it's been great because it did take a lot of responsibilities off our plate. And a lot of people chose whether they're going to put those responsibilities back on their plate or not.
Well, that's exactly it, right? I mean, it's been an incredibly tough year for so many, but it's just, if you do try and sort of eke out those positives, it's clarity and purpose have really, really come to the forefront, right?
Yeah. Can you tell us a little bit about Mom Camp? What do you have planned? You have something planned for the spring, right?
I do. That is pending the venue being able to actually have us, because right now they're not booking anything because of COVID. But we are planning, whenever it is, in spring, hopefully. It might be late spring. There will be another 2-night retreat for moms. It's on the west coast of British Columbia, west coast of Canada. And it's 2 nights. We have personal development speakers that are specifically talking about topics geared to moms. There's a ton of downtime. There's campfires. There's fitness classes. The chef there is incredible. So they are also a wedding venue. So it's like you're at camp and you're sleeping in cabins and you're in bunk beds, which are heated, like everything's heated. It's fine. There's flush toilets, but you get gourmet food. It's an incredible experience. We're doing archery. It's tons of fun. And it's just time for you out in nature with other moms that get it, but you're there as yourself, right? Really reconnecting to you and reconnecting to your community. It's awesome. But in the meantime, we are having some virtual evenings. I call them virtual camp, where speakers come and you get a little taste of the types of topics you might hear about at camp. And then something I'm super excited about that's coming to the Mom Camp platform is I am working with a bunch of course creators and coaches to create I haven't really figured out the word for it yet, but basically a library of resources specific for moms. So if you are looking for something in personal development, you come to the website and you find different courses that are available at all different price points. Some are free, some are, $10, some are a little bit more depending on the length and the scope of what you're going to be learning. So if you need something in health, if you want something on energy, if you want something on sexual health, if you want something on, I don't know what else we could talk about. It's not about careers specifically in business. It's about the core person more. But obviously, any personal development and growth work you do leads to business success, leads to parenting success, right? Yeah. So yeah, I'm super excited.
Wow. So it's like a library / marketplace.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Money, right?
Yeah. And that'll be things by other course creators, some by me, some that I'll be affiliating with, some will be that we co-create. So yeah, I'm super excited about the possibilities. It's going to be great. It's again, connecting people to solutions, right?
Yeah, I love that because, I've just realized that we all our own gifts. We all have something to contribute and one person can't do it all. Like we're going to have a 100%. Bigger impact when we can come together and utilize other people's gifts.
Exactly. And that was actually, I have to say, as a business builder, that was a hard realization to come to, because somebody had said to me a while ago that I should be curating these experiences. And that's really, and I'm an event planner, and that's really what I'm great at. And it took me a while to kind of let go of having to be the person that teaches, as tying that to my value, and actually realizing that my true area of expertise that's unique, right? Is that bringing that experience together and pulling those people together and those resources to have, as you say, much bigger impact than just what I can provide myself. So
yeah. And I mean, your Scorpio gifts is all about transformation and holding space for other people. So I love that.
It's so true. It's so true. I hadn't actually thought of it as tied to my sign. That's awesome.
Yeah. Well, I'm so glad that we got a chance to connect. We are getting close to our time, but I want to know, for the woman who's listening and she is getting ready to start a business, or she already has a business, if you had one piece of advice to give to her, what would it be?
For sure. I would say make sure it is something that you truly love to do and that you truly believe in. It's not just something that you found because somebody said it would be great to help you make income. And I mean, that's awesome. If that's what you need to do, that's what you need to do. But ultimately, if you can find something that you love, that drives you, that gets you up in the morning and says, this matters to me, then you will be so much more successful because you won't stop. You will have your why, you will have your drive. And it's sort of like starting a fitness program. If you pick a program that you don't enjoy, you're not going to stick with it. If you pick a program that you love to do, you'll get up in the morning and you'll do it, right? And so it's the same thing. If you find something for your business that you love to do and that you truly believe in, you will stick with it and you will build something incredible.
Yeah. And it's like that saying of, they talk about, what hill would you die on? Finding that hill. What is it that you would go to the ends of the earth to, promote, to do, to transform for other people? What is that thing you're so passionate about? You could talk about it for hours.
Well, that's it. And then also, I mean, if you're building your business and it involves any kind of sales and marketing, it doesn't feel like sales and marketing when you feel that way about it, because you're so passionate and you believe in it so strongly that you don't get caught up in that, oh, I don't want to sell to people. You're like, no, I'm actually doing them a disservice if I don't tell them about this, because this matters that much, right?
Yeah, I love that. Wow. And that's so true, because so many women get caught up in the sales and promoting themselves, and they don't want to be too pushy. But if it's something that you're truly passionate about and it's going to help somebody else, you are doing a disservice by not sharing it.
Exactly.
Awesome. I'm so glad that we connected. Can you tell our listeners where it is that they can find you if they want to connect with you further, if they want to learn about Mom Camp?
Absolutely. So my website is momcamplife.com, and everywhere on social, it's Mom Camp Life. So that's where you can find me. I'm on Instagram. I'm on Facebook. I am on Twitter, but I don't recommend following me there because I'm not very active. I just basically do the doom scrolling about the current news. But so Facebook and Instagram are the places that I hang out the most at Mom Camp Life.
Awesome. And we'll put those links in the show notes so that people can easily follow you.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Jillian. And, till later, we'll see you next time.
Absolutely. Thanks, Misty.
Did you love this episode? I would love to connect with you and hear all of your ahas. Do me a favor, take a screenshot right now. Tag me on IG your biggest takeaway. You can find the podcast at momsinbiz_podcast. And if you haven't joined the party yet, we are hanging out over on Facebook. We have a private group called Moms in Business. And this group is all about connection, community, and collaboration. So if you haven't joined us yet, please do come over and join in on the conversation.